may begin, Mr. Manley. We have a full quorum now.
All right, Dustin, can you hear me?
We can.
All right. Are we ready to call to order?
You may call the meeting to order, Chair Manley.
All right. I apologize for being tardy. I'll call this meeting to order for the Design Review Board on Thursday, February 29th, 2024. I'll ask staff if this meeting confirms with the Kansas Open Meeting Act.
Yes, I can confirm that the packet was posted and the required notice of the meeting was provided.
Thank you. Moving to item 1.3, call roll.
I will call the roll. Board Member Romy.
Here.
Board Member Doak.
Here.
Chair Manley.
Here.
All right, we have 3 of our 4 appointed members present. That constitutes a quorum, so we can proceed with today's special meeting agenda. And our first item of business is item 2.1, which is to consider approval of the minutes of the board's January 25th, 2024 regular meeting.
Are there any changes or amendments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I second it.
All right.
Did we have a motion or just the second?
I will go ahead and make that motion from Manley.
We have a motion from Manley, and you're seconding that, Mr. Romy?
Yep, sure.
So we have a motion from Manley and a second from Romy to approve the minutes of the January 2024 meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those minutes are approved.
All right, moving down to new business, item 3.1.
Under item 3.1, public hearing items today, the first item of consideration is application Certificate of Compatibility Application 24-2. That's been filed by Gleason and Son Signs on behalf of the Groove. And the request is for the approval of a certificate of compatibility to allow the installation of a new projecting sign on the front facade of the Groove establishment, which is on the west side of North Santa Fe, south of Ash Street. And the street address is 141 North Santa Fe. And so the application that comes before you is for a building that records show was first constructed in 1902. For a long period of time, it served as a sculpture studio for Richard Bergen, and then it was used for both restaurants and drinking establishments, and then later the home of the Ad Astra bookstore and coffee house. The City Planning Commission received an application to establish a drinking establishment and dance club in this building, and the proposed nightclub was to be known as the Groove, and it would have a bar and dance floor at the front of the building, but no kitchen or food service. And the proposed hours of operation are Thursday through Saturday in the evening hours. And so approval of that was done through a conditional use permit approved by the Planning Commission on the 21st of November. And they approved that subject to a number of conditions and limitations, which are outlined on page 3 of your report. And so one of those is that they can't make any substantial modifications to their floor plan or internal features or add outdoor serving areas without approval of the City Planning Commission. And their operating hours are limited to either Wednesday or Thursday night and Friday and Saturday. They have obtained a liquor license. They have hung a temporary banner on the wall of the building. They are open for business, and they're now coming forward with a plan for their permanent signage. And they're proposing to install a new exterior sign that's really an old exterior sign, and that sign would project out over the public sidewalk in front of the building. So it's a projecting sign, but it does have some characteristics of a marquee sign, and it's fairly large in proportion to the building, and it's 10 feet wide and a little over 6 feet tall, and the red letters for the groove is what we understand would be that would be illuminated. And so this sign is actually the same sign that was installed in 2001 at the original groove location, which was at 112 North Santa Fe. And the building owner would like to reinstall this same sign at the 141 North Santa Fe location. And so, as you're aware, before city staff can issue a sign permit, the sign design has to be reviewed and approved by the Downtown Design Review Board. And so we've summarized the sign guidelines that we have for downtown that you are familiar with. The plan is to try to enhance the visibility of this establishment by installing a new projecting sign. The sign, I think staff would describe as unique and distinctive. It doesn't share a lot of the similarities with the projecting signs that you have reviewed recently for the Prickly Pear or at Astor Bookstore or Redfern Bookstore or Spicoli's Toasted Subs. This is kind of a different and distinctive design for a projecting sign. But this building only has 27.5 feet of frontage on Santa Fe, and so this sign at 76 square feet would use up most of the sign allocation for the building. And the proposed sign is aluminum with some red plywood at the bottom, and the groove would be illuminated with red neon as depicted in this picture. The plan is also to install can lights on the bottom of the sign that would project down onto the sidewalk. So this sign was up for about 6 years at the original groove location. Records show that the Downtown Design Review Board approved a certificate of compatibility for this same sign at 112 North Santa Fe on February 8th, 2001. That was prior to the current downtown design guidelines being in place, so that approval doesn't necessarily mean that you are bound by it, because there's a different set of design standards and guidelines that we have now. But we have identified that it's your responsibility to determine whether you think this sign would be in character with the front facade or would dominate or be incompatible with that and with the other signs in this block. So one thing we pointed out, and I think, Dustin, if you could show the elevation with the sign as it would be mounted on the building. It appears to staff with the 27-foot frontage here and the sign as it is not centered on the facade of the building. And so what we noted here is that you could condition your approval on the sign being relocated to the center of the building facade, or any other modifications you believe need to be made to the sign to make it more compatible with the building or surrounding block face. So this sign design is unique and distinctive, but it will be coordinated with the overall facade composition. It is proportional to the building. It's in scale with the facade. If the sign was shifted to the north, it would be centered on the store's front facade or in the building's front facade. And the colors appear to be compatible with the color of existing building materials, and it will not cover or obscure any distinctive architectural features. So you could approve the sign as is. You could approve the sign subject to any modifications or conditions that a majority of you agree with. You could postpone consideration today if you think you need additional information about the sign, or you could deny this application for a sign permit upon making findings for the reason for your denial. I think what we were saying as a staff is that this is not a simple sign. It's unique and it's distinctive. The general profile, material, and color does not conflict with the bricks building exterior. But the 10-foot sign that we're seeing in this image doesn't appear to be centered on the facade. And so our design guidelines encourage large projecting signs to be centered on the facade of the building. And so we would request that the applicant clarify whether the sign can be centered on the building and confirm for the board the method and amount of internal or external sign illumination to make sure we're describing it correctly. So we have two members joining via Zoom. Hopefully you're able to see the images projected on the screen, and we'd be open to any questions you have for staff about this proposal.
The only question I have, and I know you mentioned it was staff's preferred to be centered. Certainly there are others that aren't centered. I think about prickly pear, but it's kind of a different example. It's projecting, but it's not, you don't look at it straight forward. It's more for walking up and down the street, so it's a little bit different. Are we allowed to require it to be centered, or just state our preference?
Well, your guidelines encourage you to, or encourage that signs, I would agree with you about those other ones, but those are really directed more towards people going up and down the street, whereas this is projecting outward towards Santa Fe and the sidewalk. And so it is within the board's discretion to require that the sign be centered on, it's a 10-foot sign, and it is on a 27-foot frontage, and we're just judging by this image, but it appears to be off-centered towards the south, and it seems like it could be centered on underneath that center pillar in the second floor and would still serve the same result. But if that was a preference of the majority of the board members, you could condition approval on the sign being centered on the front facade.
Okay. My only other question was more for the applicant, and I don't know if Gleason was there today, but it was what the plan was for the awning, how the awning was going to be incorporated into the sign.
We do have a representative of Gleason here, so if there's no additional questions of staff, we could have the representative of Gleason speak to the awning, speak to the centering, and speak to if there's any method of illumination that staff missed in its report.
Okay. Hey, Josh Dawson here. As far as centering, that was just a clerical computer error, probably with the graphic designer scaling it off wrong. It would be and is planned to be centered. The awnings have already been removed, so that's it.
Is there anything we missed as far as being, we've got the can lights on the sidewalk and the groove letters being illuminated. Is there any other part of the sign that's illuminated?
It's just the 2 foot by 6 foot area of the groove. And like you said, the owner is planning on this reinstalling the can lights in a LED form. On the
Okay,
bottom.
on the bottom of the sign.
The original sign had a lot more LED neon. That's no longer.
Okay, so
Just-
the
just the
figurines
groove.
won't be illuminated, just
No.
the groove portion.
Correct.
Does that answer your question, Chair Manley?
Yes, all of my questions have been answered. Any other board members have any other questions or comments?
No, I don't.
So we don't have any members of the public in the room, but we do have Leslie Bishop joining us online. So we would see if there was any public comment about this application.
Yeah, Leslie Bishop, Salina Downtown. Is there a timeline on when this sign will be installed?
Well,
It's ready.
it's ready. The sign's already made. It already exists, and it's a matter of us issuing the permit to have it hung. It's my understanding that the establishment is already open using the temporary banner. So there's a waiting period to see if this application is protested, but if the action is favorable today, we will work to get a permit and get it so it can be installed as quickly as we can.
Thank you.
All right. I will bring it back to the board. If there's any additional questions or comments, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve based off of option 2 to approve the application and subject to any change or modifications with the recommendation for the condition that any changes need to be brought back to the board or the board's administrative staff to determine whether additional review is required.
Thank you. It's been moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 3-0. We will move to item 3.2.
Item 3.2 is also filed by Gleason & Son Signs. It's been filed on behalf of Wally Wax, which is a new tenant in a tenant space that's addressed as 145 South Santa Fe Avenue, Suite 101. It's directly south of the Jamaican restaurant, Aunt Rita's, or Annie Rita's. And the application is for the installation of a conventional wall sign. And as far as we can tell, the sign is not illuminated, and it's a pretty basic black and white wall sign that identifies the tenant space for the public, and it would be a white polymetal sign with cut vinyl black letters. The sign face is 2 feet tall and 8 feet wide, and it would be placed south of the front entrance to the tenant space. As we noted, we don't believe it will be illuminated in any fashion, and it's a a basic and simple sign, and staff believes it conforms with the design guidelines for downtown Salina. And so your options would be to approve the proposed wall sign, finding that it conforms with the design guidelines, or you could approve it subject to conditions, or you could postpone consideration if you need additional information, or you could deny approval of the sign permit upon making findings for the reason for that denial. And so under option 2, we have a standard condition about making changes to what's presented to the board, and so our recommendation would be for option 2, incorporating that condition related to significant changes. And so with that, we'd see if any board members have questions about this wall sign.
No questions from me.
I have no questions.
Nope. Looks fine.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Leslie?
No, thank you.
Okay. I will bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'd like to motion option 2, approve the application by subject to any conditions approved by the majority of the design review board members.
It has been moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 3-0. Thank you. All right, are there any administrative items for today?
We don't have any administrative items for the board. I think Chair Manley attended a forum or that some of our community boards and commissions had with Wendy Moeller, a sign consultant who came to Salina kind of as a listening tour, and she has gotten community feedback and stakeholder feedback, and she is going back and researching and working on some recommended modifications to our local sign code. And I believe that Chair Manley attended one of those sessions, but she has listened and she's taken notes, and she's going back and working on some proposals, and her plan is to come back to the community in May to present some of those ideas and get additional feedback. So that is a process that's ongoing, and that could impact both our sign code and some of our design guidelines for signs that we currently have. We have an application filed, and it is tentatively set for our next meeting, which is March 14th, and that may be spring break for some of our educational institutions. So it would be good to poll or check with our members who are present today to see if March 14th presents a scheduling conflict, or whether we should count on scheduling that as a meeting date.
I potentially might be on the road, so I would be able to possibly attend. It's Salina Day at the Capitol, and so that would be my only, but I believe for the time of this meeting, we'd be traveling back, but I'd be able to attend virtually.
Okay.
I will be in that same category. I will be traveling back into town, so I can attend remotely.
I should be here.
Okay, you're not planning to take spring breaks?
No, well, maybe.
So, just for the benefit, board member Nelson is dealing with some health issues in the Nelson family, so he has been unavailable to attend these meetings, and so our already tight situation in terms of quorum and things are a little tighter with his ongoing situation. So we just want to make sure that we can schedule something for March 14th and achieve a quorum. So that's all. We just have one item scheduled for a building that's on South 7th Street, and so we'll proceed with planning to hold that meeting. I don't think we have anything else to add unless Mr. Manley has some observations about the meeting he attended with our sign consultant.
Oh, my comments to her were I appreciated them including getting a lot of input from all of the stakeholders and the public in this process. It was a little discouraging to find out that they've been dealing with this across the country and that there's no silver bullet. There's no easy answer. So that was a little disheartening, but it kind of goes community by community of what we would prefer within the constitutes of the law. I'll be curious to see what she comes back with and what options this community will have. But so far in the process, I've appreciated the openness from the city.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that is being wrestled with in communities all across the country, but her purpose in coming here and listening is because every community may have a different approach that they want to take to the question, and so understanding what the community is supportive of is important for her to go do her work. And so we do appreciate those who attended and provided input. I don't think staff has anything else for you this afternoon.
All right. I see that Leslie fell off today. I assume there's nobody left in the public in the room, so I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Moved, seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Thank you. Margie, appreciate the phone call.